On January 6, 2026, the Hollywood fairy tale officially died. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have filed for divorce after 19 years. To the public, it's a shock. But insiders know the truth. This was a slow, agonizing death. After decades of managing his sobriety and battling rumors of infidelity, Nicole finally reached her breaking point. She spent 19 years being a savior, only to realize she needed to save herself. Why did she finally walk away? Here is a heartbreaking true story why Nicole Kidman said, "I'm done." The nightmare honeymoon. To understand why this divorce is so tragic, you have to understand the shaky foundation this marriage was built on. It wasn't built on trust. It was built on crisis. When Nicole met Keith in 2005, she was the most famous woman in the world, but she was also the loneliest. She was still bleeding from the humiliation of her divorce from Tom Cruise. She had lost her confidence, her privacy, and her children to Scientology. She was desperate for a savior. Instead, she got a project. They married in June 2006 in a candlelight ceremony in Sydney. It looked like the ultimate second chance. But just 4 months later, before the wedding photos were even framed, the nightmare began. In October 2006, Keith Urban spiraled out of control. He had been battling addiction for years, a fact Nicole knew abstractly, but didn't truly understand until she woke up to find her new husband sweating, shaking, and sneaking out to buy drugs. Insiders at the time reported that Keith had relapsed on alcohol and cocaine almost immediately after the wedding. Imagine the terror for Nicole. She had just pledged her life to this man, and he was already slipping away. Most brides are planning their first Christmas together. Nicole was planning a frantic intervention. She gathered a group of friends, confronted him, and essentially forced him into the Betty Ford Center for a 3-month rehab stay. There's a detail about their prenuptial agreement that circulated online for years, which highlights the severity of the situation. It was rumored that Nicole's lawyers insisted on a clause stating that if Keith used illegal drugs again, he would receive $0 in a divorce settlement. This wasn't just a marriage contract. It was a strict set of rules designed to keep him alive. In a later interview, Nicole admitted how traumatic this period was. She said, "I caused the intervention. It was very painful." For the first 3 months of her marriage, she lived alone. She later revealed a heartbreaking detail. During those lonely nights, she would wear pajamas just to feel like she had a husband. She was an Oscar winner, sitting alone in a dark house, wondering if she was cursed. This set the dynamic for the entire relationship. From that moment on, Nicole wasn't just a wife. She was a caretaker. She was a designated driver of his life. She stayed because she loved him. She believed her love was the medicine that would fix him. But psychologists will tell you, a relationship born in crisis often stays in crisis. For 19 years, Nicole lived with the low-level anxiety that the other shoe was about to drop. And this week, it finally did. The trust issues in the other women. While Keith got sober, the trust issues never fully healed. Addiction breaks trust, and in Hollywood, temptation is everywhere. Over the years, the tabloids have been relentless. Insiders suggest that Nicole's jealousy, fueled by her past trauma being abandoned by Tom Cruise, was a constant source of tension in the Urban household. Keith is a rock star. His life is built on touring adrenaline and screaming female fans. For a woman who suffers from deep insecurity, this lifestyle was a torture chamber. In 2015, rumors swirled about Keith's closeness with his tour opener, country singer Kelsea Ballerini. Kelsea was young, blonde, and talented. While nothing improper was ever proven, sources at the time said Nicole was furious and insecure about him spending months on a tour bus with a beautiful young woman. She reportedly felt that Keith was enjoying the adoration a little too much. Then came his stint on American Idol. Keith spent hours on set with Jennifer Lopez. The chemistry between the judges was electric, and reports from 2016 claimed that Nicole was constantly checking in on him. She was terrified that the on-screen flirting would bleed into real life. Keith often dismissed these worries in public. He called Nicole the only woman for me. But words are cheap when you are thousands of miles away. To manage this anxiety, they created the famous 2-week rule. They promised never to spend more than 14 days apart. It sounded romantic in interviews. They sold it as the secret to their success. But in reality, it was a shackle. Think about the cost of that rule. It meant Nicole had to turn down movies that filmed in remote locations. It meant she had to fly across the world for 24 hours, exhausted, just to reset the clock. It meant she spent a fortune on private jets, crisscrossing the globe, just to make sure her husband was okay. It was exhausting. It wasn't a rule born of romance. It was a rule born of fear. Nicole was terrified that if she left him alone for too long, he would slip either into a bottle or into the arms of someone else. She became the prison guard of her own marriage. And eventually, the guard gets tired of watching the cell. The communication breakdown. You might think that after 19 years, they knew how to communicate perfectly. But bizarrely, they didn't. Nicole famously revealed a strange habit in their marriage that raised eyebrows across the internet. They never texted. She said in an interview, "We don't text. We only call. If he texts, I don't answer." She spun this as old-fashioned romance. She said she wanted to hear his voice and feel his energy. But relationship experts saw a massive red flag. Texting is how modern couples share the small, mundane details of life. "I'm thinking of you. Look at this funny meme. Can you pick up milk?" Texting is the glue of daily intimacy. By refusing to text, they created a wall. It meant that if they couldn't talk, which happens often when one person is performing in a stadium and the other is on a film set in a different time zone, there was total silence. It meant they missed out on the micro-connections that keep a marriage alive. And when things got hard, when Keith was moody or Nicole was stressed, the phone just stopped ringing. Insiders say that in the last 2 years, the no texting rule backfired spectacularly. Keith, who has an avoidant personality type and hates confrontation, would simply go silent. Nicole, who has an anxious attachment style, would call and call, getting only his voicemail. The silence became a weapon. It is reported that during his Las Vegas residency in 2024 and 2025, there were stretches of days where they barely spoke. Keith was living the bachelor life in a Vegas penthouse, claiming he was saving his voice for the show. Nicole was home in Nashville or on a lonely film set, feeling the cold distance growing. She realized that the voice she fell in love with was no longer speaking to her. The rule that was supposed to keep them close actually drove them miles apart. The 2024 turning point, the death of her mother. Every marriage has a breaking point. For Nicole, it was a tragedy that happened outside the marriage. In September 2024, Nicole's mother, Janelle Kidman, passed away. This was a catastrophic loss. Janelle was not just a mother. She was Nicole's anchor. She was the one who picked up the pieces after Tom Cruise destroyed Nicole's self-esteem. She was the one who helped raise Sunday in faith while Keith was touring. When Janelle died, Nicole was shattered. She was filming Baby Girl in Venice and had to rush home, broken. This was the moment she needed her husband the most. She needed a rock. She needed someone to hold her while she fell apart. But sources say Keith wasn't there emotionally. He was physically present at the funeral. Yes, but insiders claim he was distracted and eager to get back to his tour and his commitments. He didn't know how to handle Nicole's deep, dark grief. Keith is a man who chases good vibes. He writes songs about summer, parties, and blue jeans. He runs away from darkness. That's why he used drugs in the first place. He couldn't sit in the darkness with Nicole. Nicole found herself grieving alone in their massive Nashville estate. She realized that for 19 years, she had been the strong one. She had carried him through rehab, through career slumps, through scandals. But when she needed carrying, his hands were in his pockets. This resentment began to rot the foundation of their love. She started taking darker, more intense roles. Look at her work in Baby Girl and The Perfect Couple. She channeled her rage and sadness into her art because she couldn't share it with her husband. Meanwhile, Keith kept touring, kept smiling, kept pretending everything was fine. The disconnect was absolute. The partnership was dead. The final year in the relapse rumors. By 2025, the 2-week rule was dead. Keith spent most of the year in Las Vegas for his high-paying residency. Nicole was filming in Europe and New York. They were living separate lives, effectively separated months before the announcement. Then, the whispers started again. In late 2025, rumors surfaced in Nashville that Keith was seen partying a little too hard. There were no photos of drugs, but there were reports of erratic behavior. He was seen leaving clubs late at night. He looked disheveled. For Nicole, this was her PTSD triggered all over again. She reportedly flew to Vegas to confront him in a final attempt to save the marriage. We don't know exactly what happened in that hotel room, but we know the result. She stopped wearing her ring. She stopped mentioning him in interviews. She spent Christmas 2025 with her daughters, Sunday and Faith, in Australia. Keith was notably absent from the family photos. The message was clear. She was no longer protecting him. For 19 years, she had covered up his mess. She had smiled through the pain to protect his image as the wholesome country star. But at 58, facing her own mortality after her mother's death, she decided she was done pretending. She realized she had wasted her best years playing nurse to a man who would never be fully healed. She looked at her life and asked herself, "Who is taking care of me?" The answer was, no one. The sad truth of the fighter. When the divorce news broke on January 6, 2026, many fans quoted Keith's famous song, "The Fighter." It was a song he wrote for her, promising to be her shield. He sang, "What if I fall? I won't let you fall." It is a beautiful lyric, but life is not a country song. In reality, when Nicole fell, Keith let go. And when Keith fell, Nicole broke her back trying to catch him. The tragedy of Nicole Kidman is that she is a woman with an infinite capacity to love, who keeps choosing men who cannot love her back the way she needs. Tom Cruise loved his religion more than her. Keith Urban loved his addiction and his freedom more than her. But there is a silver lining to the sad ending. Nicole is walking away with her head held high. She kept her family together for 19 years. She raised 2 incredible daughters. She built a legendary career while managing a crisis at home. She is not the victim here. She is the survivor. As she signs the divorce papers, she is finally putting down the burden she carried since 2006. She doesn't have to fix him anymore. She doesn't have to save him anymore. She is finally free to save herself. What do you think? Did Keith take Nicole for granted after she saved his life? Or is staying married for 19 years in Hollywood a success, even if it ends? Let us know in the comments below. Stay strong, Nicole. This is The Seventh Lens. Thank you for watching.